Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 4 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Thursday, November 14th, and this is a joint meeting of the Palm Desert City Council, successor agency to the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency, Palm Desert Housing Authority, and the Palm Desert Board of Trustees. Pursuant to Assembly Bill 2449, the meeting may be conducted as a hybrid meeting, allowing public access via teleconference or in person, and up to 2 council members may attend remotely. With that said, can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Niscandy.
Here.
Councilmember Truppi. Here. Mayor Quintanilla.
Present.
All councils present.
Do we have any, we didn't have any comments for closed session. Do we have anything pending from closed session? Sorry, I'm trying to get myself situated. It's been quite the day. All right, let's continue with item number 6, the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mayor Pro Tem Harnick. As we look forward to the Thanksgiving holiday, we must remember that just recently we celebrated Veterans Day. And for those that were unable to join us at the park and participate in such a beautiful event, I want to bring forward something that was very touching and something that I'll keep with me. Our speaker, Colonel Diorio, brought up something that may not sound like a lot of fun because it's grammar regarding the apostrophe. But he said that people ask, is it veterans, N apostrophe S, or veterans, S apostrophe? Is it plural? Is it plural possessive? And he said it's neither. There's no apostrophe because the apostrophe means someone is claiming something, and our veterans don't take, they give. It really stood out. It resonated with me as a way to move forward, and we look at the veterans that are in our community. It was an opportunity to celebrate those that continue to support our veterans. So the Disabled Veterans of America were present, and I shared that in conversations with one of the gentlemen at the library, he shared something that I would have never imagined. And it highlighted that even though we refer our veterans to the VA, the benefits and the standards and the situations keep evolving. So if you have a veteran in your life, please encourage them to reach out. There may be new policies that can help them. In particular, what he highlighted was that during the Vietnam era, people didn't assume that anybody in the Navy would be impacted by napalm because they were not on the ground. But the helicopters would come on the carriers, would get rinsed, and that wouldn't all go automatically to sea. It would go through the carrier. So all these years later, the policies are evolving, the science is evolving, our compassion and commitment to our veterans is evolving. So I hope that that's something that we bring together. And it was something to tie in for me with the Citizens on Patrol recognition. And I shared with them the wise words of Mr. Rogers. He shared that his mom told him that when things were scary or hard to understand, to look for the helpers. Those are our veterans. Those are our first responders. Those are our citizens on patrol. So let's look for the helpers. Let's be the helpers. And let's give to organizations like the Find Food Bank, to the Rescue Mission, to Martha's, to anywhere where we as individuals can make an impact and help our community at large. Thank you. Item number 8, report from closed session. Do we have anything to report?
No reportable action from closed session this afternoon. Thank you.
Item 9, awards, presentations, and appointments. Please.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. My name is Rylan Penta. I'm the Community Relations Supervisor for the City of Palm Desert, and I have the pleasure to administer a program called the Palm Desert Civic Academy. Today, we are going to recognize graduates from our most recent program, which ended earlier this month. These individuals dedicated 12 and a half hours of their time every Monday night for 5 weeks to learn about our community. And we want to thank them for the time and passion they have for Palm Desert. Civic Academy is much more than a series of classes. It's a chance for residents, business owners, students, and others who care about Palm Desert to get a behind-the-scenes look at our city. They get to see the operations and connect directly with staff who help make this community an exceptional place, which we all love and appreciate. Our 5 sessions, participants will meet city staff, engage in hands-on learning, and gain a deeper understanding from everything from budget to traffic, to planning, environmental programs, economic development, and everything in between. These experiences foster not only just knowledge, but a connection and a sense of community involvement that lasts well beyond this academy. For anyone interested in learning about Palm Desert, whether you're a local business owner, a student, live here full-time, part-time, or even if you're in a neighboring city, applications for our Spring 2025 program are available on our website, and I encourage you to apply. Go to www.palmdesert.gov/Civic Academy. In a moment, Mayor Quintanilla will recognize our graduates. Please join me in congratulating each of them as they receive their certificate and gather for a group photo that will be taken after all the certificates are distributed.
Thank you. I know this is a labor of love that has evolved little by little, and as our classes of participants grow, also the feedback grows with all positive things to say. And it keeps getting better and has now extended to be sure we can include our students and to share that our business owners that are just as much of the fabric of Palm Desert, that you don't have to live here necessarily to still make that impact. And this is such a beautiful opportunity. So it is my privilege and pleasure to recognize the following participants. Alexander Meyerhoff, Alexia Rodriguez, Carla Roth, Carmen Cubero, Elise Colson, Flo Wolf, Jeff Grady, Carola Reitz, Lisa Barbato, Lori Davis, Mark Sedelic, Matt Enderwish, And your wish, okay. Renata Goldlock? A community hero for those that don't know. Mr. Rondaluna? Sheila Durkin? Casey Hedges? Charles Mitchell? Also, we still recognize, although they are not here to receive their award in person, Brian Stewart and Julia Di Bernardo. So please join me in giving one final round of applause to the individuals that gave their time, their love, and effort that make our city as wonderful as it is. So thank you. Stagger and bring one in. Like we're in the fire. Like we're in the fire. We don't know over this, they can keep on. And you have to stop? Thank you all. Thank you. Okay, item number 10. City manager comments, item 10A, library grand opening.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to invite Shannon Vonnegut up to, our Assistant Library Director, to talk to the community a little bit about our forthcoming grand opening. So Shannon?
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. As mentioned, I'm Shannon Vonnegut, Assistant Director of Library Services. Today, I'm here to invite you and the community to our grand opening event coming up next Wednesday, November 20th, from 3 to 5:30. This event will include a ribbon cutting, coffee and cookies, a magic show, a photo booth, a scavenger hunt, and a special guest appearance and story time with beloved children's characters, Elephant and Piggy. We look forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you. We've been hearing lots of great things from the community, so thank you for all of your work for your entire team. Item 10B, the spay and neuter clinic update.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. For the record, Richard Canoni, Director of Development Services. Wanted to provide a update and announcement that we do have our first spay and neuter clinic scheduled. Next slide. For Friday, December 6th. It'll start at 8 a.m. And conclude about 4 p.m. And so we're able to accommodate 30 dogs or cats, a max of 15 females. Because it is a bus targeted really to small breeds or puppies or kittens under 20 pounds or less. We are limiting it to Palm Desert residents, and along with the spay or neuter, they'll also be offering vaccinations and microchipping as part of that. And so we did work with the county on the next slide, and they have provided us with the flyers you see here in both English and Spanish. There is one change that we had made to this that isn't reflected here, is to include that it is Palm Desert residents only, so folks don't try to apply and then have to call and understand why they couldn't register. And so we wanted to add that to the flyer. In addition, we will be posting banners in both English and Spanish at the 4 dog parks, even though Civic Center isn't open yet. We will still be posting that tomorrow on the fence, as well as the 3 others that are currently open, as well as working with public affairs to get the word out through social media. And so I'll be happy to report back after how successful it was. And on the next slide, I did test the link, so it does work. So it's pretty straightforward for an individual. Once they either use the QR code or the web link, it's pretty easy to book it. And then I'd also like to announce that we don't have a exact firm date yet, but we're also looking at holding a vaccination and microchipping clinic in January. And so we're targeting January 16th, which is a Thursday, and we have January 30th as a backup. And that will also start at 8 a.m. And it'll be here at Civic Center Park. This one, we talked with the county animal services of not doing a bus and doing having a couple tents set up, just given that it could be 150 to 200 animals. Sometimes animals are a little reluctant to get on a bus, particularly when there's that many of them. And so we thought it would be a much more efficient process that way. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any weight restrictions or guidelines for this one?
For the vaccination and microchipping, I don't believe they are. One other thing we're going to look to add to this is a licensing component. Even for me, it's something I learned. Typically, I was used to when the dogs got their vaccination, they automatically got the license. It's a little different. And so we want to talk about offering that service as well that day.
That's wonderful. 150 to 200 animals. That's great. That's great. Are there any plans for a future event of a Saturday for the people that can't come in on a Friday or a Thursday?
In fact, that was initially what we were pushing for. I think what we heard from Animal Services, it was really due to the scheduling and having their physicians and staff and having to pay whether it was overtime. So they were really pushing it to Monday through Friday, and so we thought let's at least do it on a Friday.
Okay. Thank you so much. I know this has been an ongoing situation, so thank you for that. Any other questions or comments on these items for the city manager?
Nothing further. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. So item 11, Mayor, Council Member reports and requests for action. Let's start on this side. Mr. Councilmember Truppi, please.
All right, thank you. Quick comment and a quick request for action. For those of you who were there, or even if you weren't, the Veterans Day ceremony here at the Civic Center Park was a beautiful event. It was always a great opportunity to honor the sacrifice that had been made on our behalf by the brave men and women. But I also want to recognize the hard work that was put in by our staff. You know, it's sometimes I take this for granted, but it was a great reminder of we get the invitations to go to these events, and I show up at about 11 when it starts, and then I leave when it's over after doing some mingling. But you know, we have people like Amy Lawrence and Liberty who help put on and do all the heavy lifting to make this event a success. And I just want to take a moment to thank staff for always making things so easy and enjoyable for me. I love this job, and I just appreciate all the work you put in the background and in the foreground to make it happen. So thank you very much for that great event. Request for action. I've had a little bit of feedback from residents who utilize the Home Adams, I guess it's Homme or Home, H-O-M-M-E, Homme Adams Park up there in the southwest Palm Desert rather, where I understand that's a leash-free, maybe the only leash-free dog park in our city. And I don't think, of course, there's other users up there, hikers, joggers, walkers, who don't understand that it's a leash-free environment. And sometimes there's conflict between the dog owners who are letting the doggies run and joggers, walkers, hikers who maybe don't know that doggies are allowed to run there. So I don't know what it would take, but there's been a few conflicts, I think, and maybe better signage or awareness for the non-doggy people to let them know it's a place where doggies are allowed to run. So hopefully that can be put on some relatively easy fix. Thank you.
I support that. That's a good idea to find a way. Yes.
To add to that so that people are really clear on it, that's only in the base part. Once you go on those trails, the dog must be on a leash. But on the base, they're allowed to run free.
Ed? Is that it, Councilmember Truby? Okay, perfect. Would you like to continue?
So we had a great opening for 14 self-help homes with the Coachella Valley Housing Coalition, and it was great to see 14 families in Palm Desert that worked on their houses, that helped build their homes, and they now have homes. And it's just wonderful to see and be part of, and they've done great work. And CVHC is an outstanding partner. I also wanted to mention the choreography festival that the McCallum puts on each year, and Palm Desert sponsors it. It is outstanding. It is international talent that is there. This year, the Lifetime, I'm going to give you the name, the Lifetime Achievement Award went to Nappy Tabs, which is Napoleon and Tabitha, and they are married, but if you've seen Super Bowl halftime shows, you've seen their work. They're absolutely amazing. And to have them speak and hear Palm Desert, Palm Desert, Palm Desert, it's a great moment. And if anybody gets the chance, or I shouldn't say if anybody gets the chance, make sure next year you go to the choreography festival. It's really amazing. Yesterday, the Valley got together, the entire region, to work on the annual plan for Visit Greater Palm Springs. And there were many good ideas, and it's, as many of you may know, they've kind of branched out on, they have a tangent that they've gone on, and it is for economic development. So it works so well together, and they really complement and help build the programs. And I'm looking forward to rolling out, seeing what they roll out and what they work on. It's just so important to our community, and they do great work. So look forward to seeing more great things with the airport and with the efforts they make to bring people here and to include people, and the educational component as well as the economic development component. So keep watching for that. It will impact everyone's life in a very positive way.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I forgot to share at the last meeting that I attended the reopening of the Historical Society, which is on El Paseo. I was tremendously impressed. There's a new display of breeze blocks in the front yard, and the interior displays have been completely revised. They're quite engaging. I learned lots of things. So I encourage folks to visit there between 10 and 3. I think you'll find it informative. I have 2 requests for action. The first is happily Proposition 36 passed with the unanimous support of this council. And I think the public would appreciate a report at some future meeting from the sheriff's office as to how that will change enforcement against retail theft. I've often heard from residents who are disconcerted when they've observed a retail theft and clerks take no action because they have felt it would be futile. So it would seem that if we're in an improved environment, there will need to be a coordinated strategy that includes communication with our businesses so as to assure that their security policies are adapted to new conditions. And it may take some time to sort this out. But I do think the public would appreciate an overview of how this can change enforcement strategy. The second thing is because it's high season again, some of the country clubs are shooting off fireworks to celebrate everyone's return. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's heard from neighbors wondering if it might be appropriate to review our city policies as they pertain to fireworks celebrations on private property. Folks have expressed, folks want to be assured that there's adequate attentiveness to fire hazard, and folks surrounding the living desert are concerned about disruption to the critters. So it could be timely simply to have a review of our policies to see if council is satisfied that we're treating that issue appropriately.
I have received some of the same questions, and I was told that it's one of our neighboring cities that has one of the boundaries that's so very close and that we hear theirs, and that potentially it's unincorporated areas that are doing that a little further up. So I'm not sure if that is accurate, if it's within our city limits or if it's unincorporated, and if there's anything that we could do.
I think it's both.
I see our city manager.
She's right. It is both, and we generally do try to work with our fire department to make sure that the notifications go out. We can always take a look at making sure that we're notifying people in a different way, further in advance, those sorts of things. And we're happy to follow up with Chief Beverland to see what ideas he has for us.
If now that I have the understanding that it is both, including people in the city, I think that we should really take a deeper look at whether it's something that should be permitted. If we're talking about, is it something that's responsible for us to permit? It's not a citywide event. This is a select amount of individuals that are taking benefit of this when we know it has environmental consequences. It has consequences to our animals at the living desert. It's got fire safety implications. So I really do concur that we need to take a deeper look on how the city engages with policies like this.
We're happy to take a look and be back to council. That's where you're at.
And what's the policy with the Marriott? Because they do fireworks too. Don't they get a permit from the city, or they can just do it at will?
I don't want to answer that with wrong information, so I will look into that, and we will get back to you with some of the scenarios that we're covering. We've definitely had the concerns from surrounding cities. We've got several areas where our borders go in and out with other cities, and those tend to be the issues. But if there's something that we can do to better inform the public by linking up with CAL FIRE, we'll take a look at that. We'll also take a look at our ordinances as well, and just if there's anything that we think that could be improved, we'll bring it back to you for some suggestions.
And then did you need a second for your call for action with Prop 36? Because I think that's a great idea to have the sheriff's department give us an update at some point.
Yeah, I concur.
That's it for me.
Yeah, the fireworks, I think, Kathleen, thank you for bringing that up. That's something that did come up after with some of our veterans. I did stay after that and shared what we're doing with 4th of July at the Portola Community Center. So this just really follows in line with that. So thank you for bringing that up. Councilmember Nestande.
No comments. Thank you.
As far as the events that I have attended, similarly, as mentioned, Veterans Day, La Quinta High School had a Feed the Heroes event, And this was an opportunity for their culinary academy to provide quite the spread. This was a Thanksgiving dinner that they prepared, and it was all out. Excellent opportunity to see what they're looking to experience on a curricular path, learning a trade from the first year all the way up into their senior projects and enjoying the way that community was celebrated. And like I said, it all kind of goes back into the line of this is the time to show our gratitude. It was feeding our heroes with Thanksgiving meals, supporting veterans, supporting our citizens on patrol. And while some people will be looking at what to do on Black Friday or Cyber Monday, I think we need to understand the times are getting tougher. Inflation is growing. Shrinkflation is real. And just take a little bit out of your time. Take a little bit out of your time, buy some extra items, donate to a food pantry, check on your neighbors. This is where we show that we are a community, not just a city. As far as my request, I have a request to add signage at the entrance of our cities, just as we have the sign that says that we are a Purple Heart city. I think we would benefit from showing that we are an autism certified city. That is something we're distinguishing ourselves amongst our other cities in the valley and across the state. So if there's a way to incorporate the International Bureau of Education continuing credentialing standards to have that be something that we can designate. So I hope that my peers would support that as well. And the second request is while we're looking at, we recently adopted a policy and an ordinance regarding smart technology. And that should also be extended to include smartphones and smartwatches, as those have some of the similar capacities and features that were outlined in the other smart technology process. So those are my two asks, and I wholeheartedly request that my peers especially consider the autism designation placards.
I'm sorry, could you clarify specifically what you're
Sure.
asking?
When you're coming into Palm Desert, for example, from La Quinta on Fred Waring, right past Washington, you'll see the Purple Heart medal. It says Palm Desert is a Purple Heart city. So if we have that, we should also have the capacity to put something similar that says we are an autism certified city. As we grow that as opportunities for economic development, for our hospitality, and we roll out our pilot program, I think that would be a pretty cost-effective way to set ourselves aside from people that are driving through the communities, especially in the main arteries in and out of the city.
What I would suggest is one of our subcommittees recently looked at some proposals for standardized signage throughout the city. So that's going to be moving forward to the council, and probably that would be the right time to incorporate that suggestion into the discussion, since there'll be revisions anyway.
Okay, perfect. If I can request to our city manager if that can be directed for consideration to that subcommittee. Thank you. And okay, following that, we have item 12, non-agenda public comments. This time has been set aside for the public to address the city council on issues that are not on the agenda for up to 3 minutes. Speakers may utilize one of the 3 options listed on the first page of the agenda. Because the Brown Act does not allow the city council to act on items that are not listed on the agenda, members may briefly respond or refer the matter to staff for a report and recommendation at a future meeting. First, do we have any online comments?
No comments, Madam Mayor.
We have 2. Any others that have been received in the meantime? Okay. Our first speaker would be Jimmy White, please. Jimmy? Good afternoon.
I'm a disabled veteran, service-connected, 70% from 1968 Marine Corps. You brought it up, so anyway.
Well, thank you for your service and thank you
I
for
should
sharing.
get 2 times then, right? I should get 2 3-minute periods. I got about 100 pounds of stuff to put in a 10-pound bag. It's not easy. I came here of a positive thing. I already emailed you a lot of negative stuff about the management company at the low-income housing and at, I got a little brain thing. California Villas. Anyway, they ruined my life. I'm leaving the country on Saturday, not coming back, and for a lot of reasons, but mainly I can't live with them anymore. I knew they'd win when I started complaining. I knew they'd win in the end. But anyway, I had ideas that would help you guys because I'm telling you, Project Veritas has been on those people, and Veritas does mean truth, by the way. Project Veritas has been on their case for a long time. They changed their names and all that. It's the same characters. A nonprofit, which is very much for profit. These people are evil. Believe me, they're evil. And they work for you guys. And you can't say that you didn't know because Project Veritas knows that you know. They actually sent me recording devices and so forth. But anyway, I've lived there 13 years and I've seen things that would curl your hair. If anybody wants to know the positive stuff, how it can help, I tried to talk to Chuck Eldred, who's the head of their outfit, at a meeting, another meeting for the housing. I gave him ideas to how he can stop a lot of the crime and all the stuff that goes on there. And he told me, oh, he gave me the mumbo jumbo stuff. He's a smart guy. But he gave me the mumbo jumbo, so I can't do anything about it. I said, well, you called the police on me 4 times and I never broke a law. I said, you can do pretty much what you want. If you want to straighten the place out, it's just going to cost them a little more. And, you know, to monitor who's there that's not on the lease. And that's what that's one of the things they should put back up. The cameras they took down, as soon as they took them down, was one above the mailboxes. They robbed all the mailboxes. Boom. Within a month of them taking it down. They didn't work, but they were up there and it was a deterrent. So anyway, if anybody wants to know my ideas, I don't have time to, I'm leaving Saturday, so I don't have time to do all this stuff. I've been fighting them they've been after me 11 months now, ever since last December. They've been harassing me. And they only stopped after I wrote stuff to you guys. He called me and apologized. I said, well, you know, thank you so much. And he's an officer in the Marine Reserves, believe it or not. But the guy is evil.
Thank you so much, Mr. White. I appreciate you for coming to speak with us. Safe travels.
Anybody wants to find the good stuff, you can talk to me. I'll hang around. I got an Uber waiting for me.
Thank you.
Friday, so.
Our next speaker is Christopher Molina.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members, stakeholders, citizens. I'm Christopher Molinar, member of the Board of Directors of the Artists Council. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Artists Council and our nearly 800 Coachella Valley-wide membership, I would like to thank you for the action taken last month during the regular meeting regarding the extension of our lease at the Artists Center until 2030. In case any of you in the room don't know, the gallery space is located on the corner of El Paseo and 111. We are both humbled and buoyed by your support. This vote of confidence will allow us at the Artists Council and the Artists Center to further fulfill our mission of supporting artists and the creative process. The lease extension will also allow us to submit and complete additional grant applications for both state and private sources to enhance our programming and our educational components. During times of change and transition, the arts are an anchor for the community. Palm Desert is at the center of the valley and has placed itself at the forefront of resources and facilities, sharing this vision for the entire community. Community engagement is imperative, and the welcoming arms of the city and its institutions are widely felt. The Artists Council is partnering with the Palm Desert Library, where they have created a reading list and a souvenir bookmark tied to each one of our 10 exhibitions throughout the year. Tonight, we will open our third of our 10 exhibitions. Tonight's exhibition opening is for Off the Wall. The opening lasts till 7 p.m., and I'm hoping that you can join us, so please come. In exchange, also, the Palm Desert Library is displaying art created by the Artist Center and members of the artist community throughout the Coachella Valley. While I may be a resident of Southeast Palm Springs, Palm Desert is the location where I perform my community service and related volunteer efforts. You have my library of choice. I'm participating in the Poets Corner, which met last night. You just honored our poet laureate for Palm Desert. I'm part of a Friday morning reading group also where creative writing is explored. I'd also like to thank you and echo the accolades for the choreography festival just completed. I had the great pleasure to be guests and was enchanted by two completely stunning programs of dance from all over the US and Italy. It truly was a remarkable event, and it was such a surprise and such a welcome thing. So thank you again for your support to the arts and the community and the Artists Council. And you're making Palm Desert the center of arts here in the Coachella Valley. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Our next item, number 13, the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by one motion. The public may comment on any items on the consent agenda within the 3-minute time limit. Individual items may be removed by the City Council for separate discussion. Any online comments before I forget? Okay, perfect. I would like to poll items D and E. Any other requests? I'll entertain a motion to move forward the balance.
Make a motion to approve the remainder.
So good.
Motion passes 5-0.
For item 13D, it's more of a comment than it is a question. And this is regarding the regretful resignation of Jake Wiest from the Finance Committee. Just want to be sure that we give him our gratitude, our recognition, not only for what he's done within the city of Palm Desert, but for the greater community. So just wanting to be sure, Jake, if you're watching, or anybody that knows Jake, please give him our gratitude. And for item E, authorization of the Jocelyn Center agreement with the Palm Desert Wave House for parking lot use and construction and installation of a pickleball court.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Yeah, I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I also have the Executive Director, Dr. G. Sellers, here with me.
Okay. The question I had that a resident asked and saying it, is it a catch-22 that we're looking at? That in order to get the final approval, they need to have all the money raised, but in order to raise all the money, they need to get some of this worked out for the pickleball court. So can we clarify, is it a chicken and egg, or did the pickle come before the ball?
No, I think the idea right now is that we're looking to fundraise the money so that we can move forward with the project itself.
Just, again, wanted to clarify. All right, thank you so much. That is it.
I'll move D and E.
Second.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item number 14, the action calendar. The public may comment on individual action items within the 3-minute time limit. Speakers may utilize one of 3 options listed on the first page of the agenda. Item 14A, resolution authorizing the city manager to implement the Palm Desert Transaction and Use Tax 5-year spending plan and priorities and execute the necessary agreements for the administration and implementation of a local transaction and use tax. Who will be presenting?
Mayor and Council, Chris Escobedo, Assistant City Manager. Joining me in this item is Veronica Chavez, our Director of Finance. In June, the City Council voted to place an add-on 1-cent sales tax measure to the November ballot, known as Measure G. The election was held last week, and the measure is passing with 65.12%. 50% plus 1 is needed for successful passage. With that June item, that measure on the ballot, the council also adopted a spending plan to show the community where those funds would be allocated, provided it passed. We'll go through the major priorities shortly, but essentially, many of them include public safety services, which require a 12 to 18-month lead time to hire the necessary staff, which is why today we know time is of the essence and asking for a resolution for the city manager to begin implementing the spending priorities with the new measure. The ones here, bold, are the ones tied to the resolution so that we can quickly effectuate those agreements. But overall, you have the priorities covering fire services, police services, storm channel improvements, new public works staffing, library construction, parks, and then also rebuilding contingencies in the reserves. In specific, the first thing we know is the addition of 6 police officers. With this, beginning January of next year, we will be able to hire 2 new motors and 1 patrol deputy. In fiscal year 25-26, we're asking for the authorization now to allow the Sheriff's Department to begin hiring 2 additional patrol deputies and 1 special enforcement team officer. Those are the positions that take 12 to 18 months to fill. The fact that they know now that they can fill them, they can begin recruiting to fill those positions. Similarly, with the fire station, with this measure, we now can proceed with the construction of the 4th fire station that has now gone out to bid, and they'll be coming back to you shortly. But with it, we know the funding for staffing is now with the measure, and so we're seeking authorization to begin hiring those 12 firefighter positions. The last thing with this is, in order to keep up with the continuing growth of the north end and maintaining public infrastructure, is requesting authorization to hire 3 additional public works staff. I'll turn it over to Veronica.
Good afternoon. So this item is actually, this page should actually be very familiar to you all. This was our spending plan that we included with Measure G with the resolutions initially in June and also included at budget time. For 24-25, and the reason why we're bringing this to you now, we have the intention of spending the funds that we requested contingent upon Measure G approval. And so those are the 3 lines that you see highlighted there. As Chris mentioned, the fire services staffing, the new police services staffing, and public works staffing. This will give us the opportunity to do the recruitment now.
That concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes.
You touched on this, but I want to put it in bold with a question, if possible. You said phase 1 of public safety staff additions would include 2 motors. That's dedicated motorcycle enforcement. And am I correct that that is predominantly traffic enforcement, AKA stopping speeders?
Correct. Traffic and speed enforcement.
Because probably the top issue of concern I hear about from residents is speeding. And in various conversations, we've identified key streets where that's an issue. There'll be competition for these 2 added motors, but I hope it will be welcome news to residents that it is a top priority and that their support for Major G is enabling this council to proceed with our desire to be responsive.
Anyone else? Yes.
All right, this is a familiar chart, but I still have a few questions. Yeah, thank you. This scenario looks at spending, like, for example, the library construction or storm channel and retention basin being paid for solely by revenue generated through TOT, sales tax, traditional forms of revenue that we already get. Is that right?
I wouldn't say solely. There are different funds contributing to each of those. And so, as we mentioned earlier, there's the grant funds that we received that would be contributing to the retention basin. But in addition to that, yes, the general fund would contribute. For the library, that's just a portion of the anticipated costs. We have some bonds set aside currently to assist with the building.
Which is our former RDA.
Former RDA bonds.
And the
yes.
10 million, but I'm just thinking, for example, there are programs out there like earmarks from federal government that we can solicit or try to lobby for. I mean, this is not the set in stone final funding plan.
This is the plan that we set out for the next 5 years. What the ultimate dollars that are attributed to that will be based on what council approves as we move forward.
I understand the expenditure side, but as far as where the money is being drawn from, there may very well be some other stones unturned. Exactly, which is, okay, got it.
Yeah.
So that's true.
Yeah, Chris has a very active grant funding program moving this year, so yes.
Perfect. Okay, and second, the storm channel and retention basin improvements. Do those figures, have we made a final decision on what we're doing with the haystack channel?
Not yet. We do have we just had a community meeting this past week to get the residents' feedback. So I think there's been 4 or 5 community meetings, plan commission hearings, that sort of thing. We'll be bringing that information back to the plan commission. They will make a recommendation to the city council, but they're still working on the final cost estimates depending on which option is approved by the city council.
Okay,
So I think a quick answer to your question, if I understand where you're going, the importance of this spending plan is it helps us avoid debt for any of these types of expenditures, and I believe that's sort of where you're heading. If there's additional supplementary dollars that are brought into the city, you might be able to. We would certainly use any outside grant funding first, and then if there's additional priorities that come up, such as we're talking about parks with the university, there's other projects out there, we will come back to you and talk to you about that.
But specific to, for example, the storm channel and retention basin improvements, the $5.5 million, $8 million, and $5 million over the next 3 years, does that reflect the most expensive options considered? For haystack, for example.
We don't know yet. Well, for haystack is going to be a relatively minor expenditure overall. The project has been scaled back to much more of a natural type project, so it's not going to be tens of millions of dollars. It's a relatively small project. What we were looking at here was the potential land acquisition supplementing the grant that we got from SCAG, because we knew that it would likely not be enough for property acquisition, additional detention basin construction, those sorts of things. So we are currently engineering a number of solutions, particularly in North Palm Desert, in addition to haystack, which will help continue refining that. But we are trying to put together engineering solutions from those areas that were clearly some weaknesses that were exposed during Tropical Storm Hilary. And it's going to take us a number of months before we have budgets to talk to you intelligently about.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then I just wanted to add that, in supporting Measure G, the people in the community that I've been talking to, I made an emphasis that the priority was public safety, and that will still remain a priority, moving forward, that we continue to have open lines of communication with our police and fire to make sure our 5-year budget is addressing their needs. And of course, the infrastructure needs of the North Palm Desert with the Mid-Valley Channel drainage issue and all the infrastructure needs that Evan just was questioning. So thank you. And then lastly, Vanessa, we had talked some time ago about the North Sphere Regional Park. And are there some grant funds out there that we could tap into as well?
It is in our list to look at grant funds for that project. Right now, we're in the pre-application stage for it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we've altered our approach this year. We've got 3 or 4 different grant funds working simultaneously at opportunities for us. We're hoping to be able to focus at least some dollars on any park and rec dollars that are coming in, but they're all doing different things. Some are focused on infrastructure, stormwater, some are focused on parks and that sort of thing. So that's how we've deployed those assets.
Questions?
I do have a question. With the Measure G funding, can we fix that screen up there?
Yeah.
That would be nice. I do have a couple comments. The other upside of having motors is when there is an incident, they can get there much quicker than an auto, than a vehicle can. So they arrive at a scene where they need to provide public safety much quicker. We are all familiar with that matrix, and thank you for that. That was provided to us when we voted unanimously to put this measure on the ballot. And I want to thank the citizens, the community members who reached out and asked questions, who wanted to understand our budget and wanted to understand where these funds were going, because an informed community member is our best community member. And I know they asked questions of our fire professionals, of our sheriff professionals, and anytime they asked questions, they could always be directed to our website that had abundant information regarding how this money would be used and the intent of it. I also need to thank Mike Morsch, who was here. And he took a role with Ralph Perry. And Ralph Perry is the president of the Democratic Club of Palm Desert Greens. Mike is the president of the Republican Club. And they worked together because they understood the budget, they understood the importance of these funds for the community to support the community. So thank you for the citizens who stepped up, went above and beyond, and helped everyone understand the importance of this measure and got it across the finish line. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Did you? Yes.
And I second that. I was at a community meeting where Measure G was being discussed, and someone asked, why can't Palm Desert be more like La Quinta? They're not projecting any deficit. In 2016, 8 years ago, La Quinta implemented this exact same 1% sales tax. And in proposing the tax in 2016, the supportive material said, because the redevelopment system is gone as a source to fund infrastructure, La Quinta will face a $50 million deficit if we don't adopt this sales tax. So they did 8 years ago. It is a tremendous credit to the present and past staff of this city that for the past 8 years, they have continued to deliver excellent services, amenities, and maintenance to our residents without making this ask. A tremendous accolades are due to every single staff member present and past. I hope our community will absorb that they have worked hard to accomplish the same amount with less. Our staff also deserves accolades for speaking the truth in love and telling us, starting 18 to 24 months ago, the time has come that we have to make this ask. We have to seek this to assure that we can keep Palm Desert standards. So thank you to our staff. I hope those who registered concern about this revenue ask will absorb the realities I have just described and count our blessings for the excellent service we have received from all those dedicated to this city.
Thank you, Councilmember Kelly. Lots of times over the last 4 years, I've heard comments about how we no longer have the redevelopment agency funding and what's left, what's no longer coming in, and how that has impacted the financial situation where we are today. That said, it was one of the reasons why I had concerns in supporting the measure. Now it has passed. We move forward from that. However, I continue to bring forward one of the concerns from the community that feel that the Finance Committee is not a sufficient oversight committee, that there needs to be more direct resident engagement, or at least move those meetings until an evening session where the rest of the community at large can attend. One of the reasons why I feel so strongly about that in reference to the redevelopment agency funding is that the program was eliminated statewide in 2012. One of the reasons that that decision was made was because of the State Controller John Chiang's report in spring of 2011, which highlighted the city of Palm Desert as one of the 18 worst abusers of what was supposed to be done with that money. The 2009-2010 audit showed that the city of Palm Desert spent $16.7 million on Desert Willow, and that money was supposed to be spent on blight. It was supposed to be things like easements and cleaning up lots and finding ways that we can improve the quality of life for all of our residents, instead of a select few. And the report even said this is a premier golf course. This has been highlighted in multiple publications and magazines, and that is the concern of why residents had questions of, has there been sufficient oversight? Because those things happened under the watch of a finance committee. That said, again, I know that it has passed, but that is my strong request, that if we are not going to implement an oversight committee, that we move the finance committee meetings to the evening when we can have more people present to give their public comment in person.
Mayor, I can't leave that without some reply. Respectfully, I have to suggest that what has been described to you as history is wrong. It's wrong.
Would you like to tell that to the state controller?
May I finish? Palm Desert is admired throughout the Coachella Valley for its effective use of redevelopment funds. Redevelopment funds were utilized to the tune of an approximately $60 million investment to accomplish the flood control that protected the city during Hillary. Desert Willow was qualified under the existing standards to accomplish economic development. And that is exactly what it has done. It has drawn additional visitors to spur the economy, produce revenue that supports all of our services to residents, including the full range of supportive services for those who are struggling. It was not an abuse, nor was it the catalyst for the elimination of the program. Governor Brown eliminated the program to balance the budget. It effectively gave local government a higher share of property tax. He wanted to claim that back for the state. And it was convenient for the auditor to point to a premier golf course as an abuse without presenting the full facts. You have your version. I have a lived version of that history. We're probably not going to agree tonight, but I think we should agree not to divert further from the central topic before us.
With that, I would, as I believe I have presented that document in the past to you, can you please ensure to our city clerk that the report from State Controller John Chang published in spring of 2011 be entered into public record? Thank you. Okay, with that said, is there any further discussion or consideration under the action calendar, 14A?
I'll move approval.
I'll second the motion.
Motion passes 5-0.
We now move on to item 15, public hearings. The public may comment on individual public hearing items within the 3-minute time limit. The applicant or appellant will be provided up to 5 minutes to make their presentation. Speakers may utilize one of the 3 options listed on the first page of the agenda. Before I forget, do we have any speaker cards in person or speakers online?
No speakers, Madam Mayor.
I opened the public hearing for 15A, introduction of an ordinance to amend Chapter 12.04, encroachments of the Palm Desert Municipal Code and making a finding of exemption under CEQA. Who will be presenting?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Ryan Gaylor with the Capital Projects Department. The item before you is an ordinance to amend the encroachment chapter of the municipal code. The new section will authorize the city manager to waive encroachment permit fees for municipal projects and events. This will eliminate redundancy and streamline the issuance process. Are there any questions?
Questions, comments? Yes?
Ryan, could you just give one example of a, for instance,
Of an encroachment permit?
where this would, it all makes sense, but
Yeah.
I had trouble visualizing.
For instance, there's along El Paseo, there's a 5K that occurs that requires an encroachment permit. That's a city-sponsored event. And it would authorize the mayor, or not the mayor, the city manager to waive those fees in a situation like that. More common encroachment permits are for construction projects, if it's a street project or that type of thing.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. And said there's nothing else, just to make sure nobody online has popped in since then out of absolute delight.
No,
Hearing
Madam
is
Mayor.
closed. At this point, we will have a deliberation or a motion to approve or deny.
Move to approve.
I will second.
Motion passes 5-0.
Public hearing open for 15B. Addendum to the Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee, TUMF 2018 Fee Schedule Update, Nexus Report, and adopt the TUMF Inflation Adjustment and revised fee schedule for calendar year 2025.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. For the record, Richard Canoni, Director of Development Services. The item that's in front of you tonight will actually accomplish two things. One, it will approve an addendum to that fee study. There were some changes in state law that now require us to adopt that addendum. The simplest way to put it is because we have land use authority in the city, another agency cannot enact mitigation fees in our municipality. So as a result, that's why we're adopting the addendum to be consistent with state law. The second action is the annual adjustment, the Consumer Price Index adjustment that they bring forward. This year was from 2023, it was 3.58%. So for a single family home, it roughly increases at about $100. The other items are in there, but that's one that where we have the most permits right now. This was presented to the Builders Association back in the spring, and then in addition, we did post this 30 days on our website and also reached out to Desert Valley Builders to inform them of this change. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments, concerns, public comments online?
No comments, Madam Mayor.
Okay, at that point, we can close the public hearing and entertain any deliberation or motion.
Move approval.
Second the motion.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 15C, introduction of an ordinance to amend section 25.34.030, accessory dwelling units of the Palm Desert Municipal and making a finding of exemption under CEQA.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Carlos Flores, Principal Planner, here to present on today's proposed amendment. So the reason we're here today is there were two pieces of legislation that were passed, Assembly Bill 2533 and Senate Bill 1211, and this city's ADU ordinance must comply with these bills by January 1st of next year. I'm going to summarize what was within your staff report as well as exhibit of some of the changes being made. So Assembly Bill 2533 deals with denying a permit to legalize an unpermitted ADU. Now that includes JEDUs as well. So if a resident has a JEDU that was constructed without a permit, the law now expands us to work with them and be able to legalize that JEDU. Previously, this only included ADUs. Now it includes junior accessory dwelling units as well. The other change is for Senate Bill 1211. This is for the replacement of parking. Currently, our ordinance allows for any proposed ADU that is demolishing covered parking at the time of the proposal. They do not have to replace the covered parking. Now that includes covered or uncovered parking. So it expands that as well. Another change under this is that existing multifamily development, so an apartment complex per se, they can now have up to 8 detached accessory dwelling units. Previously, the limit was 2 ADUs, and now the maximum is up to 8, or as many ADUs, or as many that will match the primary dwelling units on the lot. So if the apartment complex has 6 units, they'd be able to go up to 6 only, not up to 8. Additionally, city staff also took the time to look through our existing ADU ordinance and propose some ways to streamline. So we have removed references to a separate ADU permit, references to income reporting, and are now proposing to only require deed restrictions against a property for JADUs. The state only requires this for JADUs and not ADUs, and so we are being in line with the state, and also proposing a cleanup of some of our standards and language. All that said, that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
We're trying to make it well, first of all, to align with the state laws, but also this is just trying to make it easier for people to build ADUs on their property if it's a single-family home, or in the case of multifamily, correct?
Correct.
That's the intent here.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Questions, comments, thoughts? In some of our neighboring cities, in order to further expedite, they have come across or implemented some kind of standard plans. So the staff has less to go through and verify and verify anything that needs to be done, and kind of gives them the template. Is that something that that staff has considered?
Yes, and we are working on a program for that. There's 2 versions of this. One version of it is cities that have contracted themselves with an architect per se to develop city standard plans that residents may use, or also programs where cities allow architects to develop their own plans for to be a city standard. And the city is working on that. That was another piece of legislation where cities have to have this program in place, which we are currently working on.
Excellent. So do we anticipate a timeline if it is now a state law?
It should be by next year. And again, there's the 2 different versions of that, but it would be by next year. We don't anticipate that needing a code amendment. It is something that can be essentially implemented by staff. So that is our goal.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Any comments? Okay. Seeing no comments and no further questions, so hearing is closed. Any deliberations, motions?
Move approval?
Second.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item number 16, information items. Anything else coming up? No, anything? Okay, well, if you were traveling out of the area to enjoy holidays with your family, please be safe. Please be safe, and we'll see you soon. We are adjourned at 5:18.